Welcome to Silent Betrayal, where shocking stories of love, lies, and betrayal unfold. Get ready for jaw-dropping tales that will make you question everything. Subscribe and turn on notifications because the truth is about to be revealed. Now, dive into today's story. Jake Thompson, 28, a quiet and dedicated software developer, spent most of his days staring at lines of code, making sure everything was perfect for his clients. His apartment was small, yet cozy, a reflection of his introverted personality. The soft hum of his computer was a comfort to him, especially after long, draining hours at the office. He had been in a relationship with Lily Rivera, 26, for 2 years now. Lily, a fashion influencer with a growing Instagram following, was the complete opposite of Jake. She thrived in the spotlight, surrounded by attention, and constantly on her phone, keeping up with the latest trends and messages from fans and brands. At first, their differences seemed to complement each other. Jake's steady, grounded nature balancing Lily's vibrant, outgoing energy. But recently, things had begun to shift. Lily seemed more distant, more consumed by her social media world than the one they had built together. It started with little things. Her phone buzzing constantly at odd hours, her attention wavering during their dinners, and long nights where she'd scroll through her phone in silence, only to retreat into her own world when Jake tried to talk. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't like her to be so secretive, especially when they used to share everything. The worst part was that Lily was always on her phone. Her fingers tapped incessantly, and every time Jake asked about it, she would brush it off as just work or something for her brand. But deep down, Jake knew it was more than that. He didn't know what was happening, but his gut told him that something wasn't right. Jake's suspicions had been building for weeks, but he tried to push them aside. He didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend who overthinks every little thing. After all, he trusted Lily. But trust is fragile, and once it starts to crack, it's hard to ignore the small things that seem out of place. One evening, after a long workday, Jake returned home to find Lily at the kitchen counter, engrossed in her phone. He watched her fingers swipe across the screen, her face a picture of concentration. A small twinge of unease gnawed at him as he noticed how she immediately locked the phone when he walked in. It wasn't the first time she'd done that. Jake's suspicion grew stronger, and he couldn't help but wonder, what was she hiding? The next night, things took a turn. Jake woke up to find Lily's phone sitting on the nightstand next to her. She had fallen asleep, but the screen glowed faintly in the dark. A notification popped up on the lock screen. It wasn't from any of her usual social media platforms. This one was from a dating app. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. His mind raced as he debated whether or not to look. He couldn't resist. He picked up the phone slowly, his hands trembling. When he unlocked it, there it was, a dating app profile with Lily's picture and a stream of messages from men, some casual and some flirtatious. Jake's stomach turned. There was no mistaking it. Lily had been active on this app, talking to strangers. His mind spiraled with a million thoughts. Was she cheating on him, or was it something else? One thing was for sure. His trust had been shattered. Jake knew he couldn't just leave things unsaid. His thoughts raced as he stared at Lily's phone in his hands. Every part of him wanted to ignore it and act like nothing had changed, but he couldn't. The truth was too glaring. He decided that when Lily woke up, he would confront her. Lily stirred awake as Jake placed her phone back on the nightstand. The moment she saw the expression on his face, she knew something was wrong. Her eyes darted nervously as Jake sat down next to her. His voice was calm but firm as he asked, "What's this?" Lily's face went pale. Her hand immediately shot out to grab her phone, but Jake stopped her. "Don't," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I saw it, Lily. The app. The messages." She froze. The air between them felt thick, charged with an electricity that neither of them could deny. Her eyes welled up with tears, but there was no hiding the truth anymore. Jake could feel his heart breaking in real time as she tried to explain herself. "Jake, I can explain," she stammered. For a moment, Jake didn't know what to say. The betrayal he felt was overwhelming, but he needed answers. "Why, Lily? Why were you on a dating app?" His voice was a mix of disbelief and anger. I never disliked Lily, but I always thought she had the sparkle. She's so immaculately perfect. And no arrogance, I never meant for it to go this far. Jake felt the weight of her words sink into him like a sharp blade. He wasn't sure whether he was more hurt by the fact that she sought attention from strangers or by her justification of the actions. His trust in her was gone, but the emotional betrayal of feeling neglected, despite their years together, cut him deeper. The argument that followed was like a storm, fierce and relentless. Jake couldn't hold back his anger anymore. "So, you used this app for validation. You needed attention from strangers because I was busy? Is that what this is?" His voice shook with a mix of frustration and heartbreak. Lily tried to defend herself, but her words only made things worse. "You don't understand, Jake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It's just, I needed something. I don't know. It wasn't about cheating. It was just a way to feel better about myself when I felt so alone." Jake shook his head, disbelief written across his face. "You couldn't talk to me about it? You couldn't come to me, Lily?" Instead of hiding behind a screen and strangers, "I would have listened. We could have worked through it together." But Lily's excuses seemed hollow now. The damage had already been done. Jake could no longer see her in the same light. She had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and the betrayal wasn't just about the app. It was about the trust that had been broken, the connection that had been severed. The following days were a blur of confusion, anger, and hurt. Jake tried to process everything, but the more he thought about it, the more it felt like a betrayal he couldn't recover from. Lily apologized profusely, saying that she was willing to do anything to fix things. But Jake was unsure. How could he trust her again? How could he go back to the way things were when everything had changed in an instant? Jake spent long hours in silence, reflecting on the relationship. He realized that his feelings for Lily were real, but so were his doubts. The emotional wounds left by her actions weren't something he could just forget. Eventually, after much contemplation, Jake made the hardest decision of his life. He ended the relationship. Lily was devastated, but Jake knew it was the right choice. He couldn't stay in a relationship where trust had been shattered, and he couldn't continue being with someone who needed validation from others to feel valued. Time passed. Jake threw himself into his work and spent more time focusing on his own growth. Slowly, he healed. He learned to love himself again, to rediscover the person he was before Lily's betrayal. A year later, Jake found someone new, someone who appreciated him for who he was, without the need for constant attention from the outside world. Lily, on the other hand, learned some painful lessons. She worked on herself, focusing on her insecurities and realizing that external validation would never be enough. Though she remained single for a while, she began to understand that true self-worth comes from within, not from strangers on a dating app. Thanks for watching. If you found this story engaging, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Your support means the world.